Starting on the second video, I think we're going to pull back a little bit from the details of play. Otherwise, this just will take forever. And it's a long enough game as it is. One thing I wanted to point out, though, the corporations, I actually really like how they operate in this. Now, maybe they're a sign of something. So, normal railway corporations in an XX game have this sort of constantly increasing revenue flow, and the stock value. Well, it depends on the game, but with the straight track multiple jumps, the revenue flow is kind of based. It will constantly increase throughout the game, and the multipliers can allow you to use the stock value chart so that you can spend a lot of building time to get the company up to ground up to speed, and then make a run forward. And it just doesn't really feel all that natural. There are some believable aspects to it, and I do really like that style of chart. But what feels really natural with this is sort of the ups and downs of business being reflected just by usage. Coal mines are going out of favor right now because there are other better things for the rails to do. Less income will come into the coal mines. The company can pretty much choose however much money it wants to release of its excess profits. Sure, there are parts of these businesses that are completely ignored, right? This is just the profits, how much of it you hold, for later use, possibly on the tokens or whatever, and how much you release to the shareholders at any given time. And, maybe trying to navigate things a little bit to play around with those values with your profits so that, you're never handing the whole amount out, so that, things like the two train companies can give out a steady increase in their value, in their stock valuation, in a climate where purchases are off and on. But anyway, there's things about that really appeal to me from sort of the business perspective. Let's invest this money and use it within the company so that we have better valuation later and can keep our stock values growing each time. There's a cap to it. If you put out a huge profit, well, yeah, but now are you sure you can trust that all the time? Whatever. I don't know. Anyway, there's just something about the mechanism that's not reliant on the profits that are made on the board that I find kind of cute and believable. All right. So I sweep these guys again so that it's easier for me to track. And I will get going. Worried where I'm at. Okay. So I ran the one, just built there. Didn't have much cash sitting in my treasury because I just bought a train. So I had to run counting the dot. Didn't have money to blast through and whatnot. But that's going to get me into a decent position up here so that I can run a 2-train here and a 2-train here until things break open. But then I got to the 2, and this is all the money the 2 has. And this trade. Now, clearly, there's no way that the 2 would have been that much richer than the 1. But also, I feel incredibly poor here with only $30 compared to these other companies. And I'm not sure just why that is. Except it's only been running for 50, whereas others have been able to get some increases, I guess. But it just feels like I'm really doing much, much poorer than I think I should be. I don't think there's an error there. But anyway, I got no track I can lay, nothing I can do, not enough money to make any kind of, to buy a train or anything like that. So just boom, boom. And I really, does that even make sense? I put a good outlay, an extra $10 for each. Did I have to pay any terrain? Probably. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm $30 short, down to 20. But I've run twice, and I'm just not seeing it. I'm just not seeing it. I may have drained some money from it accidentally or something. Because first time I ran, I would have made the 25. First of all, I spent 10, 20, 30. Oh, I bought a token. Yeah, that's why I'm poor. Okay, gotcha. The 7 also bought a token, but they're doing much, much better. So, okay. I was hoping to step back. The 3, again, no track delay. I have enough money to buy another 2 train. But do I want a 2 train? Because I'm making the 25-25. I will have $120, enough money to buy a 3 train next time. I think I'll wait. Because 2 trains from the 3 runs me to here and here, but a 2 and a 3 runs me from here and then up here. Of course, I kind of want to get a token in here, but what happens with the bees? There will be space for one, but if I buy the first 3 train, which is quite possible, I will not. Whoever buys that first 3 train doesn't have the chance to upgrade the track, so I won't get my token in there. I think I'm screwing around, making horrible mistakes. So the 4 train here, he bought a pair of deuces. That doesn't really help him. The only way I can use that is to place it here and put a dot down, which I'm not going to have money for. So that extra train was a real error. I'm not sure why I fucking bought it. And the 7 can use it though, so maybe they should have bought it from me. But they didn't. And even if I do build the track out here and get that dot, where the hell am I going to run with it? I honestly just do not know what this company is set up to do except fail. Had I curved down hard, I could run down to here, and that way I would do it with just a 2 train, doink doink, or 2 hits here, doink doink, and then the mining, and I'd have room for growth. Going out this way, sure, I can build track, but what the fuck am I up to? And I don't feel like I made that kind of mistake last game, and I'm heading down this way, but I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing with the 4. The 5, I had some thoughts. Now, the last time I played, I ran straight up here and got kind of stuck in that. Yeah, I could upgrade and bust out, but I got locked here and whatnot. The 5 and 12 weren't working together, so maybe that's still an option with them working together. Another option would be to try to bust through this way and get myself into the meat here, because there's a blocker there, and I think that's the way I'm gonna go. I don't want to spend a whole hell of a lot of money, and there's no really cheap way through, so I guess I'll just blast through and use these doinks. Although this is almost as cheap. It puts me in that ooh-ooh, which could be good, could be bad. Yeah, let's avoid the doinks, because they're an interesting drain on the company, right? If I'm having to pay, I already have to pay both of these, so that would be another $30 to get 10 in my pocket and 10 in the company for those two. So I don't think they're a good idea. So yeah, I'm gonna blast that space, but I'm gonna take a wide curve. By the way, I'm out of the yellow straight cities and hooks, and that puts me going that way. Now I could keep spending, but I don't know when the threes are gonna come out. I'm not making all that much money, and I'm draining money, so I think I'll hold off on that. The tenor of this game seems to have changed. The first playing was very exciting, a lot of people making a lot of money, a lot of two trains coming out, but now everybody's kind of withholding. So this guy has enough money for another two train, doesn't have the track to run it until the threes come out. So I pretty much am in a position where I'm like, well, maybe I gotta be the guy who buys that first three or whatever. So I'm collecting up the money instead of buying another train that I cannot run. The reason I can't run it has to do with this shitty track that I built. I built better track the last time. I don't remember what it hooked up to. It might have hooked up between these two or something. I don't know. But whatever, everything was advancing more quickly last game. This game, everything feels like it's in kind of this frozen time warp type situation. There's only two companies with a pair of trains, these two, and they're playing, they're making money, but I don't know, the 5 was able to make more with its single train, so whatever. I've done this last time. The 7 just ran, nothing exciting, just two trains, or a single two train here for 30 and 30. I think what I want to do, though, is I want to buy a second deuce off the TVV, because it can't use it. And that's why I should have done it last time. I think this didn't have the money or whatever, and this did to get early. But then I wasted the time for it. So what is the 7 going to need? I don't know. I mean, $15, I might as well have like almost nothing. In fact, I might as well have nothing. I'll buy it for all my money. Normally, you don't want to clear out all your money on a company, because you can, buy a train for $1. But I got 2 trains on here. I'm not going to be able to buy a train unless I discard one. I'm going to make more money next turn. Getting all this cash over here, I'll give the 4 a chance to buy something. They wouldn't have had the money to buy another train. Oh, shit. Yeah, they would have had enough money to buy another train if I'd transferred all that money before, I think. Anyway, whatever. And that's the end for the 7. And I might as well just have the camera on all the time the way I'm going. It has nothing it can do with another train. Didn't have enough money to buy the 3 and try to spark changes. So, hey, this stunted option that I took is just going to keep running. And it's not bad. I'm in with most of the pack. The 10, I chose not to pay for this, making a little bit less money to get more cash in my company. That gives me enough money for another 2 train. Sounds like a great idea, except here's the thing. Another 2 train means I wouldn't have any money to make either of those special case runs, well, to boost this or to get this. So, screw it. I mean, seriously. In fact, I might have wanted to put more cash in my pocket by bonusing the Raba, but I chose not to. So I'll leave that there. But yeah, I mean, with enough money for the extra train, but not enough money to make money off of it, I'm going to hold off, and that'll probably get me, and this is the kind of decision that keeps being made, because the money's just a little less in this game than the last time I played for almost every company, probably every company. The five is doing fine. It means that I'm being given a different set of options, and that really all has to do with how the track came out, how dicky the players were to each other, how much they didn't cooperate with each other. There it is, the 11, I didn't mark it down, 50, 60, 70. Made it 70, ended up with enough money to put 120 into the Mavag, and 60 of it ends up in there. That releases this thing, which goes here, and no matter what, this goes there. Now, that's not a big deal. I'm going to flip these over, well, not that one, just to remind me that we'll be going to brown later, but we just entered green, but it's too late for the 11 to do anything. It can't add any track or anything, and it was stunted. But at least some money's ending up into the Mavag. None's ending up in the LDSTEG, even though people were holding shares of it thinking that more trains were going to get bought. So I don't know. It just seemed like some of the companies were going to buy twos. Well, none of them did. And we'll hit the last couple. 12 here. A pile of cash. Was able to upgrade. My run's not going to be that big. And I have a couple of options, right? I want to get the 3 train if I can. That's the big option. So 40 bucks here. So there's 3 ways I can do things. 40, 70, 40, 50, 60. That would be the cheapest of my options. 60 bucks. I wouldn't spend anything. I'd get 30. That puts me to 105. Not good. The option that gets me the most money is to, I think, just pay for this. So that cost me 10 bucks. And I get 70, 80, 90. Or I could do it here. Which means I get 45 in here. So that's 75 and 35 gets me to 110. Still doesn't do it. So I'm going to go for the most expensive option, hit both of these. Because I'm not going to get a train, but that puts the most cash in my pocket. Therefore, it's the best. So that's going to cost me 30 bucks. I need a bunch of 5s, I guess. I don't know. So there's my 30. And where do I want to put it? I want to put the big amount in the snow and the little amount on the Raba. And then that'll get me 40. 50, 60, 70, 80, 110, which is as good as the 5 had. Makes sense. Same run. And 110 means I get 55 in each case. 55, 55, 65, 75 gets me to only 100 bucks there. And you can see my cash pile is low, and then here, you know, the greens have run out already, and it's just all these different companies. So the 12 made its run and it took advantage of the green track, but didn't get to buy the train. It's hard to push them out this quickly, I guess. 13. So this was a K. But I upgraded from a normal yellow track to a K track, and because I had a straight here, I had to go with, basically there's not a lot of Ks available. There's these 2, which are the reverses, and then this thing, which is the same on both sides. Now, the 13 clearly can use this, that's great, but I don't have to. I could use something like this, and maybe deprive somebody of something they need. So that's something to look at. Where is the other K? The other K is here. That's got straight track. This would be a really dicky move. And since I'm a dicky person, I'm going to do that. I really don't like Yeah, so this is going to go like this. And now I've just screwed the 5, made it so that it can't upgrade, so this connection's just not going to happen, which I was counting on happening. And I was an asshole. And now, yeah, you may not want to play a straight, but these two kind of have to. And this one is in a position where, well, you didn't get your chance to play your green. Now you're screwed until the browns come out, which who knows how long that's going to be. Quick look at the 13. What are we doing here? I don't know. I have to. I bet you I don't have enough, since he didn't have enough, to be able to run to buy a train. So maybe I want to lay some more track as well. I'm forgetting what the hell I paid out while I'm trying to think of what the guy with the Mavic wants to do. The SICK actually had some decent money on it. I think it paid out like 6 a share. So did the Raba. This thing, guy has a presidency for it, ended up with no money going back. This held steady. This paid out 6 a share. The blue went back, nobody used it. Now we're at the Mavag. And I mean, I could just pay out the 6 a share. It's not that big a deal in any sense. And I think it might be what I want to do, but here's the thing. I may not want to sell my share, or I don't want to sell my shares. Other people may if I increase the value too much. I'm not allowed to sell my shares, actually, because I've got the presidency. Like, I can sell one, but... and that puts me in a kind of weird position, but I think I'm just going to pay out. And then I'll go through the stock round, and we'll see what got chosen. But, you know, I think the thing is, when I played that last round last night, I was really tired, and I think I made errors in addition to the tightness of the situations. I mean, obviously, this should not have been the way it was. What other errors there are? Yeah, I mean, you know, people holding this, people not choosing the Raba, or, well, the snow got chosen, but people not choosing the Raba and instead buying this out. When the Mavic, the thing everybody thought was going to be good, well, it only produces $60 for one 3-train. Now, I assumed more than one was going to get sold. Everybody who bought one did. The groupthink went bad. And you know, the guy who didn't buy one is this guy. He's got 2 shares of something that went down in value. So, doesn't have a lot of money. He's not doing well. Wonder what's up with that. Because, like, he's got cash here. But if you look, he's got 3 shares. 2, 3, 4, 5 shares. Yeah. And more you know, a little bit more money in cash on hand and whatnot. On the bright side, I've got the 3-train. We'll see if that turns things around. But yeah, I think I'll just pay out and then do the stock round. A fair amount of stuff happened. First of all, he dumped the presidency of the LD Stag over on him. He held on to his Mavags. There would have been a possibility he gets that too, which might be an iffy thing. We also had him pick up the Syscav presidency all on his own. The price was right. This guy backed it up. So, you know, it ended up being a safe investment because of that. Continuing to build up his snow. He actually continued to build up his Mavags, and people bought them out. So that's actually sold out. The snow did not sell out. It's kind of his fault. This was a decision that was made relatively late. So let me hold on, because priority was here. It would just move to there. Let me see if he had something that he could. So he could have sold a Raba, which I think was the assumption that he would do in exchange. You know, it makes sense because I'm right at the end. So let's just unwind a little to here. If he sells that Raba, I'll come back and talk more about what happens. Honestly, if he didn't do it, he should have done it. And I shouldn't have stopped where I was anyway. And he wanted to hold his Raba even though it's going to drop in value, which it did after he sold it. Because I needed to be able to buy something. I mean, maybe I could have bought a SIC, but I might have been the guy who sold one. I don't remember who had one kicking around. I think it was him. There's no easy way to mark who sold what. Now, when you're playing, you know, an opposed game, people can usually remember what they sold, although newer players sometimes don't remember that that's a problem. So somebody has to kind of be paying attention to what other people are doing as well. It would be really nice. This is something I wish the game had, all the XX games, was some kind of mechanism to show you what you sold during the stock rounds. I'm sure it's seldom a problem in an opposed game though. So, and yeah, I think I talked about most of the stuff, him filling out deeper into that. That's been making good money. So let's take a quick walk down the lane. Sold out. Definitely not. The Mavga or Mavag or whatever was sold out. We got some people holding GNCs because their value was so low. It was the only thing people could pick up with their last share. And it's going to make money, right? So investments are very temporal, especially when there's only one operating round between stock rounds, but which is actually surprisingly often the case. But because, you know, if the Brown comes out here, and I don't think it's going to, but if it comes out, there's only one operating round this time. You know, if the trains come out really hard somehow, there's very few operating rounds. But how do you get all that money? You don't. But the investments feel more like real investments. There's so little value to the presidency. You're not really worried about having it stolen from you. So yeah, if something's not very good, screw it. You'll sell it off, especially if it isn't expected to be good later on. So for example, the Mavic, you know, holding 2 shares of this or whatever, that's fine. But once the 3s are out of play, it might be a hump before the 6s are coming, and you know, you might see everybody divest of their Mavags during that period, unless the money's managed well. But right now, at $60 a pop or whatever, it doesn't seem worth it. And then there's also the opportunity to raid and build up the city that you're looking at. So that's kind of a neat option. So yeah, all but 2 of the presidencies are out now. The SIC, I think nobody has any of it, which is a little weird. It looks to me like there's almost definitely going to be some action there, but it's at such a high value, and it'll just keep paying out entirely if nobody owns the presidency. So, you know, it's not going to go down in value probably. Well, it's definitely not going to go down in value. And then the other one that's not owned is the GNC, which, yeah, it's going to make some money, but that sum may be very, very little. It may not go forward. All right. And I'm going to break there. I don't feel like things went... I don't feel like playing without the camera running constantly really helped me move through this more smoothly. Rules correction time. I screwed something up in my description. This was pointed out to me by really one of my favorite commentators on BGG about XX games. I really respect his opinion, Eric Brosius, and I think he is a real fan of this game. Actually, might be one of the reasons I bought it. The mining spaces, you can't even run into or through them unless you pay this cost, and then you collect the money for it. Now, that could be important. I don't think I've violated that, but for example, the 10 here, if he didn't have enough money, he might have run this and then not hit, yeah, and not had enough money for this and run it. I don't think in my first playthrough I had a problem. I had a situation like that. But again, everything was joined through this space. Basically, this became a very important corridor. Largely important because the mine was there, but it might have there might have been some times where maybe I did violate it. I didn't. I simply didn't realize that. It's actually here. The value. If a company doesn't pay for a mine rail cart, it is not allowed to run to or through a mine. So it's not just a bonus pickup. It is something that you must have the right to go through. I'm having a hard time getting myself motivated to play. That first playthrough was a lot of fun, and now I'm screwing up worse. The runs aren't as interesting, and yeah, people are being dickier because I'm not as much in an exploring motion for it. And I do know that it's going to be a long slog through this. Plus, the interviews today kind of screwed me up. It's a shame because I was so excited playing the first time, and I definitely want to play this opposed, but that extra effort to familiarize myself with the game and make it make myself play better. Well, I think it's gone completely wrong. I think it's totally backfired. I'm playing worse. I'm also playing harsher. But one thing that Eric also pointed out to me was that it's often to the advantage of the miners to do things on the board that provide money to those corporations so that the corporations can pay out. I have a hard time accepting this. I'll trust him on it, and maybe I'll make attempts at it. But first of all, generally, the major corporations that are worth having, everybody buys up. So, you're not going to have a lot of shares. It's possible you might. It's possible you might end up with, so 40% already. That's a pretty good handle. I noticed that some people were holding 60% of decent ones in my later game. I also noticed that quite often people who were owning them were not the people who had the capability to even use them at times. So that didn't really work out too well. But the thing that really makes me not sure about the effectiveness of this strategy is the amount of money that these miners can make you. You'd have to dump a whole hell of a lot of cash of that money that these miners give you 50% of to get at most, 60% of the money that goes into the corporations. I'm not saying, I certainly like the idea of like slipping a little extra into them, whatever. But remember, whatever you capture from these, you get 50% of it here. Now, I can see spending some extra cash if it's not going to hurt you. to boost your own corporation. I can also definitely see things where, hey, you have a choice between making a little bit of money off of either the Rabba or the Snow, and you can't take them both, and you make the choice of going for the one that brings you the most money. But honestly, judicious use of these with good track, I was getting runs, and again, I didn't make it to the final operating round, but I was getting runs up here in the 60s. So, with 2 trains, a 6 and probably a 2 or a 3. One of the objections that I came up with, which is hey, maybe you can't even reach that one. For the car capabilities, it looks to me like you can pay for each one of those car capabilities, even if you're not using them for anything. I couldn't find any prohibition to that. So that would be one thing is, especially late in the game, you can dump $40 out of here, which is worthless to you, but good for the miner. But especially late in the game, once you have your trains, if you're not going to cash another train, I can see shifting money and making sure that, the companies that you have majority share in get the best money you can give them, because this stuff is worthless. It doesn't count towards you, just like, in most XX games. Starting the next set of operating rounds, and we got 2 in between each stock round now. The 1 train, well, to make the most money, I would upgrade Budapest. And that would get me, let's see, where are you? The combined Budapest, the 13 is not going to be able to get into Budapest, but there is an important dot available. And the question is, how many people can access it? And that's this one. It is possible both the 2 and the 7 could access it. And it may be of more importance to buy that dot. The reason this is important is it's right adjacent to the main city, which means that, yeah, I'm not going to get, the most valuable dot. This one maybe, but that's sort of adjacent. But this one has breakouts. This one is equivalent to that once it connects, but it's not connected. There's possible breakouts from both of these. This one is also equivalent. So there's a few really important entrance and exit dots, and this is one of them. And the 7 could slip in there and get it. 7 probably doesn't have the cash for it, so you can read that how you will. Also might not do them any good. They don't have the trains for it. They're running a 2 and a 2, and that's fine. Also this space, which would allow me to run a 1-2, but I'd have to pay it out to 2 different places. That's not going to go. Yeah, so I have a lot of different choices to look at here. Yeah. I just want to highlight that, it's not like the choices are just early. They're every single turn you've got these kind of tough calls from most of the miners. When I made the choice of the dot instead of anything that is quicker cash turnarounds, and doing that, I did the growing that to give me chances to expand out of it. For the 2 company, I built this up. Building this up seems like the obvious, but I don't know quite where I want to go. I mean, and no one else can get in there right now, although that may change fairly quickly. And bought myself another 2 train, which you could say, well, wait a minute, the 3s are already out. What the hell, man? Yeah, but I'm not generating the kind of income it would take me. You can see I was at $85. I wouldn't have reached the 3 train even next time. And there's some point at which you just have to surrender and say, this is what I can run. And, it's actually not bad. The 3 upgraded, bought themselves a 3 train. That's kind of nice. It goes 1, 2, 3 very shortly. So I'll have a big increase in value. Looking at the 4, have enough money for the 3 train, but I got a few problems I got to do. I got to hook this up, and I probably got to buy a dot before the opportunity passes. So I may not have the opportunity to buy that 3 train. Again, the gatekeepers are important. Although in this game, I did find the companies were able to weasel their way through, mainly because these things turn into junctions, which can go everywhere, but they go close enough. And it's really hard to prevent somebody from hitting the main city a couple of times. And the main cities, although it seems really valuable, it actually isn't all that much more valuable, as I think I pointed out before. Your big K goes up to 60, your big OO goes to 70. Of course, there's only one of each of those, but still. The big B only goes to 80. Of course, it has room. You can probably get at least 1 plus 10 in there, depending on when it falls, The result of that is I'm left with $110 in the company treasury. $10 short between having to blast through the riverway here and pay for the dot. $10 short of buying the 3 train, and it's very, very hard for me to justify buying a 2 train when I have this much money. Next turn I'll be able to get it, but it means that I'm going to be making low money for a long time, right? For 2 operating rounds in this, where I could significantly boost things with that 2 train. But this means I'll probably end up eventually with like a 3 and a 6, maybe a 3 and a 4, I don't know. It's hard to just throw away a $120 train. Usually somebody holds on to a 2 for quite a while that they discard. But 5 screwed by the 13. You could argue that their own 12 did it to them by building this and giving the option to the 13 to make sure that they don't get both. The 13 could guarantee they don't get both, but the 12 could stay not upgraded for a while. The 5, neither company wanted that to be the one that was stuck. If you had to choose one that was stuck, it would be the 12. Blasting through, spending lots of money, and not making a hell of a lot there. They're still at 10. I mean, they were a rich company to begin with. They've got a nice setup in terms of what they're making the owner off a single 2 train. But it's a risk. It's a position that's hard to break out of, and I'm doing that there. The 6, similarly, I didn't want to break through here because I'm not in the position to buy the train yet. But now I am. Now I've got enough cash to pick up a train. So, well, to pick up a 3 train, which is kind of the key. And that gives me enough money to make it here, if I want to, or here, whichever one is more important to me. There are various, depends on what happens. Somebody could block me there. And that gets me a 3, and another 60 goes in here. The cash shortages that this playthrough is causing, still causing issues. The 7, with its 2 trains, had no cash on it. All it could do was lay this track, really. Couldn't do any upgrades or anything that was useful to it, because it doesn't have the cash on hand. But it's accumulating money to be able to. The 9, similarly, ended up just $5 short of getting a train, whether or not they paid for this. So I paid so that I get some extra cash in my pocket. How does that work out? Yeah, because it's 20 extra bucks, a 10 in the pocket, 10 in the hand, and it cost me 10 bucks out of the miner to do it. 10, building up, basically bankrupted itself, well, ran out of money in order to buy itself the 3 train. That means I'm not going to be able to run as good a run as I will be able to soon, because with my 2 and my 3, well, right now I'd be running here and 1, 2, 3. Nope, can't run through there. So I have to hook something up for that 3 train to work. But there's many options here, here, whatever. What I can't do though is run from here to here, because yeah, now that rule's been pointed out to me that you can't just ride through the coal tracks without stopping. It makes sense, I guess. And then the 11, which already had 2 trains in place, but not a lot of money. Not enough for a dot is the important thing. I want to put a dot here in order to, again, control an exit point. Although this one's kind of a weird exit point. You know, there's the question of whether you'd rather have the exit point or be in the city itself. You kind of need both, right? There's plenty of exits to the city. There's 1, 2, 3 available. That means that if these all get tokened up, you can come out of the city up to 3 times. Yeah, you only have 2 trains though, but you can run through the city once and come out of it once. But the optimal situation is probably to be able to run through it twice. So getting that extra dot here is valuable. And again, this may not be as valuable as, you know, my gut told me before I played the first time. After playing it, I feel like, well, maybe I spent too much effort dominating that and not the almost, or maybe even more valuable Becks up here. Although, it's hard to call it valuable. It's sitting on 2, there's 2 cities adjacent to it, neither of which is a K, neither of which can go up to even brown, right? Because they both have two spaces they can't run into. So you're stuck at a 30 coming out of there, which weakens the value tremendously. So I don't know. The last couple companies were kind of interesting. Trying to figure out why the 12 is where it is. Did it already have the 3 train? Yeah, it was the guy who bought the first 3, or one of the early ones, because they got the upgrade there. Okay, so no, they only ran. I swear they only ran a 2 train. 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11, 12. No, 3, 4, 5, 9. Yeah, they ran both trains. 13, 16, 17, 18, 19. But what I did was I built this track out, making the hookup here. But even though I had the money for a dot, I didn't buy it. My dots that I could buy legally are here and here. And neither one of those is what I actually want. This is kind of an entryway more than anything else. Buying this dot might have made sense, but you know, I want to make sure that I get my positioning up in the north, because I'm going to be running 2 trains. Every company is. So I'm playing for getting something up here closer in, or maybe right in Budapest, to be able to run. And the question becomes, well, can I hook that all up for a big 6 run? Especially if I'm in Budapest itself, can I get a 6 run coming out of Budapest going through here, and then a little 2 run or 3 run it would be, down in the Budapest area using the other track that comes out of it. So that seemed wise there. For the 13, I paid to blast through here. Now I used my dot because honestly, looking at stuff, I don't think I'm going to need it for anything else. It was only a 10-buck blast for that, and 10 bucks into this is give. But then had enough money to buy myself my train after bonusing this, and I hope I bonused that. Like, I know I paid the money for it, I'm just never sure I transfer it to the right place. Like, I don't think I did. It doesn't look like it changed. Okay. And that's one of the real problems. If it were that you were putting the full amount that you paid into the thing, like you do with these, it would be easy. These are such big purchases. I feel kind of comfortable that I'm doing them. But these guys over here, the rail car ones, you're putting kind of weird amounts of money into them. I'm pretty sure I missed that one. I don't think I missed any others. Anyway, so that's my runs. The 12 got the biggest run. Obviously, the people with 2 trains are the ones who got the good runs. And now more and more companies are up to 2 trains. But it's kind of not a homogenous 2 trains. Now, there's a couple of companies that are kind of screwed. They'll be getting, well, the 5, I don't know what it's doing because it's in bad shape, but it really needs to get a 3 train. I may end up buying it off the 12. The others, I think, are pretty much guaranteed their 3 train. They could have bought the 2 this time, but they decided to delay yet another turn of good income. And then but the thing is, there's a fair number of companies out there that have two trains, and others that have made the jump straight to the 3 train instead. I saw little or none of that the first time I played because the income levels were high enough that getting the second 2 train early was fairly easy, and then those income levels got high enough. You know, it snowballs, right? You got 2 trains running, well, then the 2 and the 3 is not that hard to reach for. The problem with it is the 3 doesn't add that much to your income. The big thing in income in an XX game is often how many trains you can run, more than how big are they. And like quite often the biggest runs come not right at the beginning of the game, but in kind of a middle part of the game when you can run like 3 trains. You can get some really big runs in most of the XX games. And then your runs get cut down when the first permanent trains come out and they start rusting your shit away. And then you fight your way back up, and eventually you might get higher. So it depends on the game. But anyway, now I manage these guys. Right, rough situation here. So the sick is just doing what it's doing. Nobody holds any shares, but it's paying out everything. Its stock value just continues to climb, becomes less and less attractive as more and more of the tiles that are going to generate money for it disappear. It's possible nobody may buy that company ever if it just keeps shooting up. Eventually the stock value increases get a little bigger, but it's hard to justify when you've got a game where big incomes can throw you forward to catch up, and that thing will eventually slow down quite a bit. The Raba has 40 bucks on it, enough to buy a token. I look at the guy who owns it, lost track of where he is, over here. He's got it with only 2 shares. I'll have a chance to get rid of it if I want it. The question is whether I want to drop a token here. Now, I did this last game, and the 3 and the 11 were working together. They were the same player, and I don't know how well it went. First of all, this never upgrades, which means the 3 is blocked out of going into here if they do that. Right now, the 3 is running a 2 and a 3 train. I think I can make this upgrade. No, I cannot make that upgrade because I don't have cash on the 3, which means next turn I may need to be able to run 1, 2, 2, 3, and 1, 2 instead of what I would like to have run, which is maybe a 1, 2, and then something coming through here, or maybe just 1, I don't know, You know, maybe I'd get an exit out somehow and be able to run this in addition. In which case, blocking this off might not be such a bad idea. But at this point, I think I can't afford to put that dot, even though that was my intention. And I'll just pay out 30 of the 40 bucks so that I increase stock value, I guess. I don't know if I really want to. You know, I mean, I'm making $3 a share off of it, and stock value is going up. But the stock value for me may not be important. But I think it's worth trying to increase the stock value, even if other people are just going to eat that up by selling it. Snow paid out. I'm looking here at the paid out all 60 bucks it had in it as well. Maximum just to increase stock value. He's got 4 shares, so yeah. The Sezkev is sitting over here. Now, that has, again, enough money to buy a dot, but where the hell would I want it, right? The 5 is hoping to break in here, probably wants that open if that's the case. Since I can't upgrade this, dotting that doesn't make sense, and it might not anyway because the 12 might want to go through there. Dotting the 12, well, if it's the only company using it, doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense either. Because, yeah, I'm getting a bonus from it, but I am blocking other people. Eventually this could upgrade, so maybe. I certainly don't want to block this off, and I don't want to put it in here where a lot of other people might use it and where I need open dots. So the real debate is, do I put it there? And I don't know the answer. Hey, yeah, I got 40 bucks easily. Again, I'm only holding 2 shares of it, so using up some of that money might not be too bad. And I have priority on someone else. I could dump it on them if I think it's not, if people aren't going to be using, you know, the double track lays or building dots very much. The leg leved or whatever, or leg lead seg has is owned by the same player. He's the only person owning it, can't dump it. Seems more valuable. I might have made the choice, since the 2 were close together, of, hey, I'll build the dot with that. But nah, I'm going to stick with it there. Over here, the owner of the 13 has the Magav. He's Mavag. He buys the dot. No question there. Yes, this could be valuable to the 1, but what the hell? The 1's in the center of everything. It's going to find its way to something. Closing this off and making it a bonus for me is just fine. However, I have 300 extra bucks. Now, I'm not going to pay out 30 a share. Certainly not on the first operating round. The question is, am I going to pay out 210 a share or 110 a share? What amount is worth it, right? I want to get some cash into my hands. I got 40% of the company. I get a fair amount. There are other people, though, who are splitting this up. It was sold out. And whatever amount I pay out, it increases it by. You know, it makes it a more valuable thing to sell. I think what I'm actually going to do is only pay out 3 a share, the $30 limit, and see what kind of money is accumulating in it. Because I don't think I'd be able to pay out 210 a share 2 turns in a row with this. How many 3s are likely to be bought? Well, there's 1, maybe another, 2, maybe another. So money's going to be going into it. So maybe 60 bucks, get it 2 spaces. Just because I don't know whether or not I want to keep it, you know. But if I manage it well, it will continue to rise in value. If I don't manage it well, it'll jump up, stop, start, you know, that kind of crap. So yeah, I don't want to pay the full amount. I'm going to pay out 60 on it. Let me close things out with the GNC forced to pay $1 a share. Nobody owns any of it, and keeping its position the same. So these are the stock values that have accumulated. Stock values aren't very resilient, though. You know, when things go into a position where they're not being produced or whatever, they don't keep rising, and in fact, they may start falling. And whatever. In opposition to the last time I played this, there was no question, throughout the entire green round, which wasn't very long, but I ended up playing both operating rounds to the stock round, I think every single time. But now I'm kind of fatigued. And I thought it was just because the game was getting bigger back then. It's not very big right now, but there's more effort to doing even the shitty camera job I do and whatever limited babbling I have. It is just, it slows my game down tremendously. And if I haven't played an XX before I do it on camera, or maybe any game, you may be getting a tainted view compared to my memories that I put in play as to how well did it work without a camera. When we're talking about the big war games and stuff, where I just come in and ideally give a few minutes of narrative as to what happened without going too much into the detail. The first video is always very detail oriented. If the game is annoying me enough, I'll complain a lot throughout it. But generally, I kind of settled down to just giving narrative as much as I can. But with XX, it's kind of hard. And with Euros as well. The reason being, you kind of want to focus in on all the decisions. And the decisions in this are difficult enough and rapid enough. I mean, it feels like every player, that nearly every minor company on its turn is having to make a kind of tough call. And it feels like I'm having to make a kind of tough call here. There's almost no autopilot. Now, there will be later, I think. I know that I didn't feel like too much exciting was happening anymore when you hit the end game. And that's common for XX games, right? Sometimes the game breaks open sometime at the end with one big turn that's just massively, confusing, maybe more than one. But there's large periods where you're really just, fiddling around developing your route. And this game is very much about route building and controlling the dots and whatnot. And it's not a very difficult one to get decent routes. But getting the optimal route, getting the one that gets you the edge on your 50% share, that is not trivial necessarily. Yeah. I'm still not convinced that these are that big a part of your income. Their stock value even is kind of iffy. So, if I'm putting $300 in my pocket on each run at the end of the game, if I've built things well and gotten my trains set up well and whatnot, you're kind of talking about, the valuation, more than the valuation of a single share each time I run one of my miners. These are important. They impact your chance of victory and everything and playing with them. But the fact that you're not holding on to them, the fact that you're willing to trade them away kind of at will because their value is fluctuating, and it's very obviously fluctuating by the board state, makes them not really the same kind of financial shenanigans that goes on in a lot of the XXs to get yourself little advantages or whatever. Usually involved in managing your money well. you know, managing your money well, but often that means things like feeder lines and stuff like that. You don't have any of that kind of, you don't have the ability to float another company and get a pile of money into it. You don't have an ability to move this money into the miners or vice versa. Well, you have my ability to move it from the miners into them, but you don't want to hurt your miners. You know, a little while back I was talking, I don't know if it was the last thing I was saying, about how you have all these tough decisions right away in this game. Well, on almost every company. And it's because of the huge number of companies that are in play at once and interacting with each other. This is not usual in an 18xx. Even in games that have a fistful of miners to begin the game, usually they're kind of separated out. They start out separated enough here, and then they work together. But first of all, this is a humongous number at 13. 6 is probably more common. And as the corporations start coming out, those miners end up usually disappearing one way or another. They either turn into the corporations like in 2038, or they combine to form a national corporation like in 35 or whatever. There's also a lot more flexible track choices in this game than in some of the others. So yeah, there's a whole lot of that kind of decision making. And walking over, starting the next operating round, the one train. Well, what do I want to do? If I want to increase my revenue the best, probably the best thing I can do is increase this. And I have enough money to do that. But maybe I don't want to do that. Because if I do, I'm simply opening it up and the 2 will get, if they have the cash, the dot for that. Let's see where the 2 is. Can't find them. There they are. Okay, well, they're not going to have the cash to build that dot. But it's not going to go to the 13 if I upgrade that. And I don't need that dot, right? So there's kind of the feeling of make the guy who needs the dot pay the $20 for that space. On the other hand, I'm almost certainly not going to get the dot with the 13. It's nowhere in the range. But and equally problematic. The 1 is not going to cause that dot to be filled with, you know, say the Mavag, which may be able to drop another token down, assuming they make a decent amount of money. Because the 1 goes so damn early, it's only after all the miners have run that the corporations have their capability to place the tokens. That's particular to this instance. But yeah, it's something you have to keep in mind. Those companies that run late, they make more money off of the track that's already built, and they also are closer to being able to control things using the corporations, whereas the earlier miners don't have that kind of capability. I got to think about this. I mean, you know, I'm running a pair of deuces. I wish I had a 2 and a 3. I could run the 3 this way, the 2 up this way, and then I'd be set up to maybe make this run or something. I don't know. And I don't know if this is wise or not, but I paid for it because I could make a better run that way, a 70 and 70 run. I now have almost enough money for a 3 train, but I'm probably not going to go for that. I'm probably going to go for the 4. Hard to tell, but I need a 4 to get to here, whatever. And the two 2s lets me run. Well, I'll be able to hit at least 1 ooh. The 3 train, the one advantage is it gets me to here, so maybe that's wise. Basically, I've made a choice to screw the 2 company, but to bonus the 3 company, because by building this, now the 3 and the 11 have access. Well, they already had access this way, but now when it goes up to brown, they're going to be able to go directly in. But that's going to be a longer term delay, and they already have a couple of access points going in. But what that could mean is multiple routes coming out of the Budapest space for them, where it would be a more limited number for the two. So I really may be giving a lot of aid to shifting left for now. Of course, by the time Brown comes up, Budapest turns into a 6 hub. So, you know, the dot is probably the more important thing. I'm not really comfortable with sort of projecting the engineering thoughts ahead the same way I feel with some of the maybe financial manipulations. Mainly because the financial manipulations that I really see are often, oh shit, I've been giving out a lot of money. How do I save my company? What do I need to do now? You know, and that usually is something to do with another company. At least in 30. But, you know, the two, for example, built this truck. Now, there's some implications to that. That gives me lots of openings right now. But in the future, when the Browns come out, it means that I can't just upgrade to Brown and move into, say, this space. And there's a consideration there. But there's also a consideration to, I kind of needed this. I don't know if I needed this. But I kind of wanted this. I already had this hooked up. I don't remember. I think I was going this way. Or no, this way. Sharp turn. So I was kind of in a forced situation by earlier track lays that, yeah, this is not working all that well for me. But we're beginning to get good runs with the two different trains on each company. The 3 went even further. They made the decision they didn't even want to lay track. They had a few they could lay. They could connect into here. Doesn't really hurt them, doesn't really help them, but it opens things up so the 7 now is hooked up and can come into their playground. The 7 can do this on their own. I don't know where the hell they are. They have enough money now. They only have 60. They need 80 to put the dot down, which would be a damaging dot. But it may be more important for the 3, which now has enough money for the dot, but only had $5, so they couldn't lay it. The 11 has enough money to drop a dot in there. You know, there's just there's all these complex decisions, and money used on a dot means your company's not going to get as quickly to the next train or whatever. Maybe not able to make runs that they want to make using the cars, all kind of stuff like that. So I mean, every choice in this game, every minor company run feels like it's replete with choice, or equally painful. I'm looking at this. I don't know what the hell to do with track. I'm a little worried about, hey, you know, can I do something that'll help the 7? And what would that look like? And I don't think so, because I can only connect in this way. Well, no, that's not true. I reached this track, so I could lay track that brings the 7 up to there. And that might be worth doing. But the bigger question, I have the option on that dot now. It's an important dot. On the other hand, it'll cost me $80, and it'll be the 3 train that I'm due to get right now. Yeah, I don't know. And elsewhere, I'm not seeing anything that I definitely want to do for the 4. My runs appear to be limited in this area or running down this area. And there's no real improvements that I can make. I could build track that's kind of aspirational, but a lot of that involves making a river crossing, and that seems kind of silly. Something through here without the dot is actually detrimental to me. So, yeah, I don't know. Looking at those choices, the 4 makes the decision not to lay that dot, which could be very, very important, but buy the train instead. Okay. And basically look at producing short-term revenue, which in almost all XXs is a good idea, allows you to buy more shares. But again, these shares, they make you a lot less money than your miners are making you. You see these guys, they're putting out $6 a share or whatever, whereas your miner, with the 4, well, this time it only made 70, which means you made 30 at $6 a share. That means you would have 5 shares of something. So that's like my whole holding is equal to one of these miners. Now the MAGAV or the MAVAG or whatever is a special case because it's rolling in money right now, but it's still not paying more than 60-ish, $60. The opposite side of this, though, is the 5 train, which decided to put this dot, that this was more important. Those spaces are very valuable. Setting this up gets me a likely link right into Budapest. I mean, it will eventually happen. It's almost assured. But it means holding off additional turns until I get the second train, and that second train generates a lot more revenue, making it easier to get another dot that I may need, to get the kind of access that I want down there. I also shunted the 2 down towards the 12 with the thought of, well, maybe they'll build stuff going down this way. I doubt it. But maybe if they don't build it going down this way, they're probably going to hook up stuff here, infrastructure that the 12 can use. So that's kind of neat too. And it's just that kind of weight of decisions. You have no idea how it's all going to play out. At least I don't. This is the thing with the engineering side of it. The economic is sometimes similar, but I usually have a better idea of why I'm making a move that I'm making, as opposed to I'm going to shunt the 2 down there in the hopes that they build the track that I need somehow. Feels really funny, but it is part of the decision-making side. It's just that you have more capability to engineer, I feel, to manipulate and understand what the opponent is going to do more precisely when you're dealing with, hey, I'm starting this company, I'm leaving this company unprotected. Is he going to take it or not? Or is he going to make a play for it or not? And stuff like that. I really feel like I control the game, especially in a small number of players, when I'm making those kind of calls. I can almost absolutely predict what someone will do, or else it's a fork. It's a two-way fork, and I can look down both paths, but this is spaghetti. I can't unravel and not what's there currently, but all the possibilities. I can't unravel all of those, and I can't even really see for sure the main bent that this will cause track down here to be built. Maybe it'll end up meaning that he de-emphasizes that side of the board and builds more over in the north where he's got a token nearby. I don't know. More difficulties. The 6 set itself up in a situation so that if it wanted to hook this up, it couldn't kind of use it. It couldn't use this. I think the best money I could make was actually by building an extra track, if I'm building that. And I kind of want to control that this gets played, which meant that I ran for a shitty 10 or 100 because these are the per share prices, but they're used for things that don't have share price. But yeah, the total run was only 100. Could I have made more than that? Probably. See, the problem was getting two trains to run was the whole difficulty. So if I didn't build this, it would have been 30, 60, 70, 80 instead. So yeah, this was kind of the best I could do. And then the 7 laid this wonderfully dicky track, just sort of a denied. Because I want to hook up to the 4 here and be in connection between my own stuff. And why help? Why not hinder? Why not be a dick? Almost enough money to buy a 3 train, but I don't want that. I have 2 trains in hand. I want to build up to the next train probably before I discard one, which will come pretty quickly. The 9's plight really highlights the problem. Now, they did this to themselves, busting themselves into this and just running there for a little bit extra money early on. It was a bad choice. There's no question of that. But they were hemmed in by opponents, who were going to shut them out, and they would end up with a worse money situation, but with a little bit of ability to maybe lay track and play in the world. Okay, so now they're being given the choice of, do you want that 3 train that you want it so bad, or do you want to be relevant? And it's really similar to the decision they made earlier where they chose, okay, I'll make a little bit more money. That 3 train will make a fair amount more money, I guess. It's hard to tell for sure. But if I end up blasting my way up to here and dropping a token there, maybe I want that, maybe I don't, but it's a good place for one. Although it doesn't guarantee me any in. I'll have some sort of relevance in this part of the world. If you have no relevance at the end of the game, you end up paying in terms of those big runs just aren't going to happen for you. But if I could get a dot somewhere in the vicinity, I should be able to score some kind of points off of it. Being at the edge of the map sucks. And yeah, I don't know. I think I want to be relevant, but that may cost me my extra train for another turn yet again. Suppose the middle ground. Hook up and buy the train, but not the dot. My thought is maybe no one else wants this dot. The 2's got bigger fish to fry if they want to play their dot. I don't know that the 1 or the 7, and again, these are big, expensive dots to put in a place that's not very valuable, to tell you the truth. It might be really important to the 9, but I don't absolutely need it yet. And maybe I can get something more valuable like this if I hold out. So, yeah, I think I'm okay. The track building up around here is growing quickly. And there's another thing. The 12 companies running, each of which can make 2 track lays potentially, but most of them are making just 1. No question there. Let's see, the 10, I don't know what the hell they did. They didn't have a lot of cash. They had to build up their cash reserves, so there wasn't much they could do except run for money, and not a lot when you have no cash, because you can't pay off things like the mining companies. The 11 is in beautiful situation. Bought itself a dot here. Has what looks like a nice run. I have the potential of buying this dot if I want it later. I might be able to break other ways going into Budapest if I need to, though. So I'm not in any great hurry to get that one. But getting the pass through of Budapest, that's just so important. It's centrally located. There's a lot of oohs near it, and at least a couple of which are probably fairly reachable without any additional dots. That's a really nice position, and that 311 combo is working really well. You can see he's got like 275 bucks. This guy does too. In fact, a lot of them have 200 bucks. This guy's got 300 kicking around, so he's doing pretty well after running the 12, which is weird because the 12 didn't make all that much money, right? Well, second most. But it's got a lot more coming. I spent all my cash making myself very relevant indeed by throwing myself in there. And also building some track here that's probably good for the 5, maybe, kinda. Although it does prevent my breaking in with the 5, so maybe it wasn't that wise. And possibly good for the 12 as well. So, I feel like I'm doing good things all over the place with that player. Yeah, 200 and something seems to be pretty normal, but it's the 300, almost 300, almost 300. These are the guys who are kind of doing a little better. Of course, we'll see if their stock holdings are as impressive. Like, look at this guy. He's holding a lot of shares. That could generate a little bit more money. And your money is really only used to invest in those shares. So these guys may be just catching up with people who made earlier money faster. I still got the 13 to run. Yeah? I don't know where the hell that is. I had no money for my car runs, no money to set myself up and put the dot here that I wanted. I still got a pretty decent run because 2 big trains and a plus 10 that I'm hitting twice. So this is a 50-point space. It's better than that. It's probably as good as there is on the board. It is the best space on the board. So yeah, the 13 has its own little private playground that's pretty good. That brought his money up into the leading realm, and he has that nice stock holdings. Looking at the stock holdings, as I push these down and get ready to do it, I notice, well, a lot of people bought these GNCs and nobody was able to afford. Nobody who wanted to hit a doink was able to afford to get the bonus from it. How about that? I thought we're finally stabilizing that company. It's going to make money. But you can see the money was really low. All those car runs, everybody was too short to be able to invest and make the best of their money. So a really weird turn. And these payouts look pretty good compared to the last time, but they're going to skyrocket once those runs start to go. A lot of the money was invested instead into the building side of things, a little bit into the trains. Well, trains are expensive, so probably more money in the trains. But I think that was only one train, maybe two. Paid out a few of them. The biggest was actually the Syskev. The SICK is paying out big, but nobody owns any of it. $60 or whatever. The Syskev had the most money. They had a thought about, hey, do we want to put a token somewhere? We had the $80 for it. It would have meant dropping in stock value. That's not a big deal. I only have 20%. But there just wasn't some place I want to put it that I know I want to put it. In fact, most places, it looks like, well, that would probably not help me and probably help other people or hurt me. But of a little bit more interest is the big hitter this time, the Mavag, which is looking at. I'm just looking at the Lidsteg there, and yeah, only the president has any shares of it, which is probably for the best. No one should have bought the presidency of that thing. Yeah, that was over here and got dumped. But the Mavag, there is one interesting place I could drop this, which is right in here. The 11 would run 1, 2, 3 and hit that. The 3, both their trains would be bonused by it. And then the 11's 2 train, well, I mean, it's probably better going this way. Given that I have a 3 and a 2 configuration, I actually think it's worth doing. Although it cuts my 11 in half, I can maybe make it up a different way or whatever. It's kind of an interesting situation, and it's sort of a short-term profit for something that may hurt me in the long term. But I'm probably not going to place my dot there. Of course, I might want to run through there. That's the big question. What happens if I get my 4 train? My initial thought had been to run the 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I block that, that's not going to happen. But the 3 can run consistently here, and the 4 can find its way through there. And this becomes a fairly valuable place. So I think I'm going to do it. That's not me. Okay, does the 1 want to do it, or the 13? The 13 obviously doesn't want to block off anything that it has. It doesn't want to put it here or anything stupid like that. So what about the 1? What about the 1? Looking at the wrong person. Yeah, the 311 would do it, but then I noticed, well, where did I put that other one? Why did the 13 move? Why did the 13 put it? Why would they do that? Did it move hands? Oh, no, I was looking at the wrong player. So the only place the 1 might put it is here. And do they particularly want to? I think the answer is no. It's a big investment to block off a space. Now, it would limit access into the Budapest space. That's one reason to think about it. But in limiting that access, it also means that I end up making sure that I don't make this run through here. It could happen through here. That's not a token I terribly care about. I'm running a pair of deuces. Right now, a pair of deuces gets me this and this effectively. There's nothing better I could do. I mean, I could pay $10 and make a little bit less. In the long term, what does it mean for that? Well, again, it blocks people from getting into Budapest, which I'm probably in favor of. It reduces the number of spaces I'm interested in putting a dot in. Of course, it reduces the spaces other people can put it in, so like some of the spaces I want might be there. But I'm kind of convinced that, yeah, maybe it's worth it anyway. It's spending a lot of the Mavag's money and their last token for something that doesn't help me that much, but it does help me, and it's not really my money. More appealing, I have priority. I could drain the Mavag. There are no new companies that are liable to buy a 3 train in the near future. Which means if I drain the entirety of it, I shoot up its stock value, I sell my 4 shares because there's people who have 2. This is as close as you can come to in raping something in this game. And I make a fair proportion of that money. To me, that all seems positive. I'll end up with another presidency. There are other presidencies out there to buy. So that's not of course, the question is which one, the GNC, which nobody's been running, or the SIC, which is kind of a time-limited company. Probably the GNC, but anyway. Yeah, I should be able to turn things around. Now, what's looking really good after this is this one, because the 4s, we're getting into the period where the 4s might start coming out. Big payout of 28 a share. That just, slammed that price way up there. When I sell, I don't hurt other people much either. I'm just cashing in my value on something that's been stripped. Presidency, where does it want to end? That's a good question. This guy may well sell his 2 shares as well, because again, it looks like it's a company that's not going to make money for a while. Now, like with this, I hit a drought period this turn. I have the $10 to prevent me from losing money. I make a big $1 a share. But now I'm set up holding the presidency of something with 2 tokens to play with, and a lot of money is going to come flush into it that I can make the decisions on. And if I end up with priority like this guy luckily did, I can do the same kind of thing once I think the 4s are done playing out. The 4s are going to kind of trickle in, and it's a little iffy because some people are going to say, well, you know, I got a 2 and a 3. I'm pretty close to the 4, but it wouldn't be that much more to get me to the 6. And that's a lot better. You know, because the difference between a 3 and a 4 is pretty minor, right? You know, I'm running a 2 and a 3. The difference between a 2 and a 4 is a fairly big deal. But the excess, it's quite often hard to find, I don't know. I don't know what I'm thinking there. Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible to go 3-4 and then 4-6 as your path. But it'll probably delay you a little bit to do it in that order. I'm not sure how much waiting on the 3s, and a lot of players did that, was worth. But it's almost like the circumstances of this playthrough forced it. Okay, I got, one more company, and it just goes back in value. And that'll put me into the stock round. I like to do the stock round right after the play because I have more of an idea of what these things are capable of when I do a stock round. Going into an operating round, in this game, there's nothing I have to really remember for an operating round except what I did in the prior operating rounds or whatever. Because sometimes, you know, your financial manipulations are based on, are designed to help you into that next operating round, getting you position, getting you set up so that you can buy trains and move them around and everything. There's nothing like that in the stock round here. The stock round is really kind of disconnected from the operating round. So MAVAGs were dropped as quickly as possible. Everybody kind of group thought and bought RABAs. They seem to be the best thing out there, the most likely to make money, because there aren't a lot of doinkers hooked up this time. Even though he went with his presidency of the GNC, he bought the final RABA, so it's sold out. Now we come to hard decisions, right? What is left? The LD Stegs, well, there aren't a lot of companies with a pile of money on them. It may happen in the second operating round, but right now, you know, we're looking at 145 as kind of the biggest. And maybe he's working for a 6. I don't know. You know, because a 3 and a 4 kind of stops you at a moderate level. With his cut through of Budapest, he might want a bigger chew, and whatever that means. But one thing it means is the guy with the most money who's trying to make a decision right now isn't that interested in buying one of these. And he would only want one at most. Just tons of money here. This is a 500 from dumping all his high-valued shares and then buying garbage. So that leaves it with the GNC that doesn't look all that promising. This guy's buying it up. He's got the presidency already. I'm not going to get it from him easily. Yeah, at least not in good shape. By in good shape, I mean, you know, he's not going to willingly hand it over when it looks like a good company. There's nothing much you can do to hurt a company except blow all its money. So then the question becomes, hey, well, maybe terrain. Terrain doesn't look that valuable. This has certain limited options on it, though. But at least it's got some cash and it's not going to go down over the 2 rounds. So I think I'll buy one of them. But it really is getting to the point where people have money and there don't look to be any good options right this moment. At the end of the stock round, a lot of stuff moved. We've got him up to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 certificate limit. I don't think anybody else is quite there yet. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. But what that means is now, you know, yeah, maybe there's some jockeying, some value to the presidencies. You can see they've all gotten swept up. He got the sick. He would have had a shot at it if he had played a little bit smarter. Could have had 2 presidencies over there. But instead he bought himself things that would make money, because the 6 not likely to make money, right? But he even bought one of these. Almost everything sold out. The 3 exceptions, the 2 railway companies and the expensive 6 did not sell out. So yes, even the GNC sold out. Mainly because it was so cheap. He's buying a bunch of them to protect himself, but other people were like, well, I can get 2 shares of that or 1 share of this that's probably not going to make money. What the hell? There are just too many things that are out there that nobody really thinks are valuable. That puts us here. Trains were sold, so we don't move that little a little train marker. I think there was one round, the first round or whatever, that should have been placed. I think I did that. There might have been another one. I don't think so, though. I think we've been buying a train every time. It doesn't have to be a new train the way the rules are written, which, again, that could stretch things out forever. I think we're going to send this up. I think this game is going to eat up a lot of videos, actually.